Hi everybody. Today I want to do a tutorial on the Brooklyn Traveler by Swoon. It's a gorgeous bag and I just wanted to show you all the pieces that I have prepared and ready. So first, I've got, and I'll show you what I interface with. So these are going to be my main panels, and I've cut out, see if you can see that. I've cut out a foam piece that comes with the pattern, and I've interfaced my cotton with Woven Fuse and Decovil Light, and then I put the foam piece on. My foam is fusible, so I was able to iron it on. Some foam, is all foam fusible? I'm not sure. But whenever I've bought it, it is. And let's see, what else do we have? I'm using vinyl for all my accent pieces. So I've got my vinyl bottoms here, and I don't interface most of my vinyl pieces. The only one I put anything on is the bottom piece, my bottom panel. I'm trying a new thing that I heard from someone on one of my Facebook groups. I did quite a few layers. So I cut out Decovil Light, Decovil Heavy, and I used some foam. It's called Bossel. What is it called? I'll post a link. I'll post a thing in the notes below. It's a fusible foam, and it's fusible on both sides. And then I put Woven Fuse over the top. All of the other stuff I cut, I think it's a 1/2 inch smaller than my actual piece. So it's right out of my seam, so it's not bulky. And then my Woven Fuse, I did a full piece up. So we'll see how that bottom turns out. I'm excited to try that. Oh, and then I just did a cute little bottom decorative stitch. I kind of like the way that looks. I'm not doing purse feet on this one. I just don't have purse feet right now, so I'm not going to do that. I've cut out all of my extra tiny little pieces. I'll be adding more to these ones. I'll do that in the tutorial part. And got my handles and my zippers. And then for my lining pieces, I'm using waterproof canvas. And I don't line that. It's awesome. It's thick. It doesn't need a single thing. It makes great lining. I'm kind of addicted to using that for my lining. I don't really use cotton that much anymore because the waterproof canvas is so awesome. And then I have some pieces for a zipper pocket on the inside and a slip pocket on the inside. And that is all of my cutout pieces. So let's get putting this together. I'm gonna try a new camera angle this time. You don't really see my face, but I feel like at this angle, hopefully you see more of kind of what I'm doing, which is better. I like to follow the pattern pretty much word for word. Well, not word for word, but step by step. This is one of the few things I'm going to do out of step is I'm just going to go ahead and put together my handles because I just want to get that done and out of the way with while I have a full bobbin, and then I don't have to worry about doing it when I'm all done with the bag. So these handles are 4 by 28, and I've put double-sided tape down each of the sides. And I put a line in the middle so I know where my center is, and I'm going to fold them to the center and then fold them in one more time and sew those up for my handles. I'm just going to go ahead and do that real fast before we get to the other parts of the bag. And again, I'm using vinyl, So this is how I do it with vinyl. You can do it, I think there's directions for if you're doing cotton fabric as well in the pattern. And I leave a little bit of a gap in between my two sides so that they're not too bulky when I fold them. You see how there's just a tiny little gap there? So when I fold it, it just folds easier and lays nicer. I'm going to fold that one more time and sew that up. I'm at about a 4.5 stitch length. And somebody asked what, for me to tell them what machine I'm using. I sew on a King Max. I don't know how popular those are. It was just a tiny bit cheaper than a Juki, and it seemed to sew just as fabulously. And I've had no issues at all with it. I love this machine so much. It's been a great little machine. I'm not a really fast sewer. I like to go slow just because I'm kind of a perfectionist and I want to make sure everything's going okay. I've seen some people go super fast and it turns out beautifully, and that's awesome. I'm just not one of those people. One handle done. Looks awesome. Pretty cool. Click on the other one real quick. This pattern does have the option for a crossbody strap. I am not going to do a crossbody on this particular bag, but it looks super cute with a crossbody as well. And I would, if I was doing the pattern, I would go ahead and do that crossbody strap at the beginning right now, so I would have it out of the way and done with. But there's my two handles, beautiful. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna, or after that, the next thing that we do is we're going to work on our handle connectors. So what I did is I went ahead, you do it two different ways. I'm doing it with vinyl. If you do leather, you do it the same way. If you do cotton, it's different. So look at the instructions for that. So vinyl's pretty awesome and easy. I cut out 4 already, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them onto just a big piece of vinyl like this to start, and I'll show exactly. I'm just going to use some glue. You could probably also use just some double-sided tape. That would probably work great. I'm just going to spray these. Let's see, I'll glue them right there onto the vinyl. Wrong sides together. And this is just a scrap piece that I had after cutting it all out, so that's kind of nice that I can use it. And I learned this method from watching another person's video, and I thought that's pretty awesome. I like the way it turns out. Okay. Got those glued on. So next, what I'm gonna do, now that I have them just put on a piece of vinyl, I'm going to, they're not wanting to stick up there, huh? That's okay, I'm gonna sew them down anyways. I'm going to sew just the tops of all of them. Just to kind of right below where they kind of turn and just start curving. My glue did not stick very well. You can see this one coming off. Let me try this one again. I think my glue's almost out. There we go. Okay, try that again. See how I just sewed that right there? We're gonna do that on all of them. You don't even have to like pull it and cut it. You can keep them connected and just go to the next spot. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And now we're just gonna cut them out. Get my good scissors. Just cut around them as close and evenly as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and we're gonna add the hardware. So get some double-sided tape. And I need to zap my threads too. This is called a thread zapper. It just kind of melts the ends of your threads, kind of seals them off. Because when I use a lighter against the vinyl, sometimes it melts the vinyl. And that frustrates me. So we're just gonna take your hardware and put it in right there. And we're gonna fold it down. How far do they say? I don't know if they say. Under 1 inch, so they want you to be about 1 inch down. Yeah. about right there. Just kind of make sure they're all even when you do them. Helps. Oh my gosh, my hands are sticky. Folding them. So that'll be your back side. This will be your front side when you put it on your bag. I kind of just check to see which stitching is better and make that my front side. About an inch right there. Tape. I'm putting the tape right under so I can fold it down. Yep, looks good, looks good. Got my 2 there. Sorry, I got some threads coming out here. I'm such a paranoid person about threads coming undone. Right there. Okay, one more. This side. Okay. And then we just need to add a piece of tape on the back as well to stick onto our bag. So I just put a strip on each on the back. And then we'll attach it to our panel. Let's get our first panel out. Okay, you want to make sure you have the top of the panel, which is this part with the foam kind of cut away at the top. That's going to be your top part of the panel. Okay. And then with this, for the traveler, so there's 2 different sizes. There's the traveler and there's the handbag, and we're doing the traveler. And it says 2 inches from the center and 2 inches from the top. So we are going to find our center, which, did I clip? Usually I clip my center, but I didn't this time. So let's find our center here. The bag's 21. So 10 and a half in. Right? Am I doing my math right? 21, 10 and a half. Yeah. So I'm just going to mark that up here. So I've got my center marked. So 2 inches down from your center. Okay. Which I think I need my white. So that's my 2 inches down, and then we're doing 2 inches in. I'll go ahead and mark the other side. Let's see what I'm doing. 2 inches down and 2 inches in. So I have my little cross centers. Okay. And that's going to be where you put the we're not marking from the connector piece. We're going to put it from the actual vinyl, not the hardware, but where the vinyl starts. Okay. So you're going to center that as best you can. Right there. That seems super close. I think I want mine farther apart than that. Yep, I want mine farther apart than that. I'm gonna go 3 inches. Let's do 3 inches. Sorry. Trying to follow what the pattern said, but I don't like how close that looks. Okay, I did 2 inches down and 3 inches over from your center mark. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. Okay, and then we're gonna sew that on, okay? I start with the top right here, and I'm gonna try and get it where my other stitching stopped, so it looks like it's continuous. And I'm using a piece of vinyl so my foot doesn't tear up the vinyl on my bag, because my walking foot tends to chew it up sometimes. And then you just sew around, follow the edges. When I'm done, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna put rivets as well to reinforce these. And I love the look of rivets. I think it just makes everything look better. Okay, there's my first one. Looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and do my other side. that's what your first panel looks like. Pretty awesome. So go ahead and do the second one with your connectors. We'll kind of find our center. Make sure you're at the top. The other way you know you're at your top is it should have these little notches on it, okay? That's your other sign that you have the right piece. So find your center. The other thing you could have done before you, what I do for most of my pieces usually is I notch my centers on my top and bottom pieces. It helps when putting the pattern together, but I forgot to do that before I interfaced it this time. Okay, so we find the center, we go 2 inches down. Okay. And then 3 inches in. Both sides. Okay. All right, before I sew these down, I'm going to compare it to my other side and make sure that it's centered. What I like to do is just put the other piece up top and put them about right. Yeah, they look pretty good. I just want to make sure these line up together, because when you put the bag together, it'll look weird if your handles are not in line with each other. Okay, I'll go ahead and sew those on. Okay, so we got our handles on, and then we'll rivet. So now we need to do our accent piece. We're gonna just stick our accent piece. We're gonna want it to go on the bottom, right down here. And again, I think I'm gonna use spray glue to put mine on. I feel like that probably works the best. So I'm just gonna spray it. I kind of have something to spray it on top of, which helps. Okay. Just gonna stick that on there. Beautiful. Just like that. Okay. And now we're just gonna sew around that. We're gonna top stitch and then sew around the edges. I just go slow because there's curves and I want it to look nice. I think I'm gonna do a double top stitch too. I'll do it again. I like the look of the double top stitching. And then I'm just gonna secure it down real quick before I do my next top stitch. One more time. Okay. Show you what that first panel looks like. All right, there's our first panel. See how I just did a double stitch line there? Looks pretty. Okay. We'll do our next piece. Do the same thing. Exactly. 2 panels done. Okay. On to the next. Okay. Next, we got to get our lining. So let's grab our lining pieces. Now our lining pieces, I am doing just a little bit differently, but not by much. So I have a slip pocket. I'm doing a slip pocket and a zipper pocket. So for my slip pocket, I just have 2 pieces of my canvas or cotton from my outside, and I did woven fuse on one of them, and that'll be the one that's on the outside. But I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'm going to leave an opening on the bottom to turn it with. I'm also going to trim down my corners. Just trim them down because we're going to turn this. Okay. turn it through the little hole you left. There's many ways to make simple slip pockets. This is just how I'm making it this time. Poke out all your corners. Okay, and then I'm gonna go iron that. And then I'm gonna make sure when I iron it that I'm ironing the seam closed, because then we'll top stitch over that to close that up. Okay. Okay, so I took it to my machine and ironed it, pressed out all the seams, and then I went ahead and I top stitched where it was left open to turn it. And then I centered it. I drew a line down the middle because I'm going to separate it into 2 pockets. And now I'm going to sew around all of that. And you can separate the pockets all at once with your sewing. I like to go over my top edges a couple times just because you're getting in and out of those pockets and there's a lot of stress on the corners. So I like to go over the corners a couple times. Okay. So right before I get to my center line, I'm going to stop and turn it and sew up to do the separation of the pockets. And then I'm going to go 1 over and I'm going to sew back down. Pocket is done. Super easy. Slip pocket. Awesome. Make sure you did that at the top. That's your sign that that's the top and you're doing it the right way. Okay. And then next we have a zipper pocket. All right, let's grab our other side of our lining and our zipper pocket piece. My zipper pocket piece, I did 9 by 16, I think. Yep, I did 9 by 16. I think the pattern calls for something different. So you can do it, pattern says, or do this, both work. So I am going to draw my rectangle on there for my, sorry, I lost my pen. For my zipper. If I can find my pen. There it is. Okay. Do your zipper. I always draw my zipper. You can get the template that has them all pre-done. Oh, I'll show you that. I don't use it as often as I thought I would. There's these cool little zipper templates that you can use to draw out your rectangle. Like I said, I don't use it as much as I thought I would, but I always draw mine 1 inch in on each side. And that's how long of a zipper it will be. So I'll show you. Just like that. Okay. These might be all things you already know, but just in case. And then just centered it. It says about an edge from the top, or an inch from the top. That's about good. And then pin it in place and sew around your rectangle that you just drew. And I do a smaller stitch length. I usually do like a 4 stitch length, maybe shorter. Okay. That's attached. See how I sewed around that. And then we're gonna use a blade or a seam ripper. And we're just gonna cut that along the lines we made. And I'll show you. Just like that. And my corners I did kind of at an angle right there. And then we just pull our pocket through. Now you can iron this. I think I just have to be really careful because I have waterproof canvas and you're not supposed to put heat directly on that. So I don't know if I will iron it. But if you just have cotton, go ahead and iron that zipper pocket there. I'm just going to press it with my fingers. Okay. So that's what we have, front, back, and we're gonna put our zipper in there. And I already have zipper tape or double-sided tape on my zipper tape. Like I said, zipper pockets, most of you may already know how to do this. This may be just fast forward if you already know how to do it. All right. Kind of center your zipper in there as best you can. Okay, and then we're going to sew that in. All right. Okay. There we go. Sewed around it. And now we just close up the pocket. I need to trim this down a little bit because it's sticking out. I don't want it to fray, so I'm just putting some heat on it. Okay, and close that up. Zipper pocket done. Beautiful. All done. That's what it looks like on the back. All right, so next they want you to do the zipper for the main part of the bag. So I've got some zipper tape here. I cut mine at about 21. I like to have just a little extra just in case. I'm paranoid that way, so I always cut it a little longer than it needs to be. You don't have to do that. Sorry, let me just move stuff out of my way here. All right. All right, so if you have a front or a back of your bag, get the front part first. I went ahead and I added my label too. If you haven't done that and you have a label you want to add, I would do that now before we sew everything together. Make sure I'm going in the right order here. Yep. Okay, so you're gonna make sure you got the top of your bag. It should have these little notches on the corners. And you're gonna lay your zipper tape right side down, and your zipper pull is to the left. Okay, and we're just gonna baste that on there first. You don't have to clip it the whole way. I just usually do to start with, but you want to baste that on there all the way down. I like the zipper that closes this bag. It's pretty easy to install. It's not very confusing. All right. So I have a little extra I'm just gonna trim off. Okay. And you take your lining panel. Doesn't matter, whichever one you want the zipper one to be up against. So your lining panel, right side down, so it's right sides together right now, and you're just gonna line it up and pin it in place and sew that on. Usually do about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I just do it to the edge of my foot because that usually is pretty close to that zipper for me. Move your zipper out of the way too as you go. Wrong clips. Too many kinds. Okay, so we got right sides together, the zipper's sandwiched in the middle. Zipper should be facing your outside piece, your outside panel, okay? I'm gonna move my zipper. Okay. Good, and then you need to top stitch. Let's take this. Again, if you don't have like waterproof canvas or vinyl, you can use an iron to make sure those are pressed. I'm just going to use my fingers and fold it. And top stitch that. A little thick where that foam is, but you should be able to do it. Okay. So that's what we've got. My zipper and my back, okay? So now we go ahead and do the same exact thing. Take your other main panel and you're gonna place right sides together, zipper on top, okay? So now your zipper pull is on the right side of your bag and you're gonna baste that in place. You don't have to, but you can add the lining and just sew it all at once, but I like to just baste this in place so I know it's not going anywhere. It gets kind of big as we go along. It's a big bag. When I first did it, it was way bigger than I had originally thought it was. So it's awesome, but it is big. So then you take your other lining, right sides together, and you're going to put it on top of that one. 1/4 inch seam allowance on this one. Whenever I say baste, I'm usually doing about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm gonna run out of bobbin soon. Okay. Remember to move that zipper out of the way if you need to. Make sure your needle's down in your fabric when you do that. Okay. They're all together, and then now we just top stitch that other side of the panel. Okay. Super cool. Okay. That's what we just did. Sewed it all together. Pretty cool. Okay. Next, we're gonna sew them together. We're going to do outside to outside, lining to lining, just like that. And when we sew, that's what these little notches are for. We are not sewing over this zipper. We're stopping at the end of these notches. That should be a 1/2 inch seam allowance right there where we stop, okay? And also when we do our lining, we start at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, right? 1/2 inch, yep. And then you get a little bit bigger in your seam allowance, so your lining will fit nicely into your main purse. So, and we're gonna leave an opening on the side of our lining for pulling the bag through. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure when I pin, I'm gonna make sure that these two pieces right here line up where they are, because then when you put the bag together, if they're like crooked like that on the side seams, it's not gonna look good. So make sure you line that up when you're pinning your outside. I think that's kind of important. It'll bug me if it's not lined up. I'm not using a lot of clips, just enough. Sometimes I throw them, just enough for them to stay. And then I'll do it to the lining too. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm gonna leave a pretty big opening on my lining because this is a pretty hefty bag. It's gonna need a big hole to turn through. All right, again, 1/2 inch. I need to remark my there. mark my sewing machine here. Okay. 1/2 inch seam allowance. Here we go. And I do a smaller stitch length, about a 4. Okay, so on the lining, I'm starting at a 1/2. My foot's gonna eat my fabric here. And I'm just doing a tiny bit. And then I'm going to skip a whole bunch and go down to the end, and I'm gonna widen my seam allowance by about a 1/4. Okay. Now we're just doing this on one side to pull it through. We'll sew the other side completely shut. I'll show you what I did. So I left a big hole in the lining. So I'm gonna pull the bag through there. But then I stitch all along here. So I'm gonna go to the other side. I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but I'm gonna stitch all along the lining and close it up. Remember to line up your accent panels first. Okay. Okay, 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to widen it. It's snowing. It is snowing. It's snowing. Okay. Okay. So we're all sewn up. So next we need to grab our bottom piece. And we can't forget to add our connectors first. So we have these little connectors. I didn't show you how to make them at the beginning. Very simple. I think mine are 2 by 5 each. And I just folded them in half and sewed them at the bottom because I'm going to put rivets like on them to close them up. So, yep, let's attach those. So before, here's a little trick. On your bottoms, almost on all my purse bottoms, I like to put little notches on the 4 corners, so on the middle of the edges and the middle of the ends, because then when we're putting it to our main body panel, we know where the centers are of everything. So because I have these notches, I know where my center is, and I'm just going to add my D-rings right there. And so just a base stitch. So we should have our D-rings on, and then now we're going to add the bottom to our back. Make sure that your zipper on the inside is open somewhat. And it may come off when you turn it. I've had that happen, your pull, but you can get it back on. The trick I use for putting my bottoms on my bag is a stapler. It's just a cheap little stapler I bought from the store. And I have found that it works so much better for me than clips, because clips can fall off and they can move, and it's kind of frustrating. So when I can, I use a stapler. And this takes a little while. It's not quick and easier than clips, but it sure keeps it in place, and it's kind of awesome. So I usually do my 4 corners first. Which I may have to use 1 clip on that because it's too thick. But I'll staple each side of it. And you could put notches in your bag so they go around the edges easier. I don't think I did on my other ones that I had. So when you use a stapler, the only thing you got to be extra careful about is getting them all out and removed after you sew it, because you don't want to leave any staples in there because it could rip your bag, and that would not be good. So before I sewed this together, I had put notches in my main panel, so I kind of know where the middle is right there. So I staple my four corners first, right? My 4 main points. And then I just go from there and go in and just kind of even it all out. Hopefully you can understand what I'm doing here. We'll see how this bottom turns out with how I interfaced it. I've never done it like that before. I'm hoping it works beautifully. And this process of putting the bottom on bags, like round bags like this, it seriously takes just practice. And sometimes it turns out beautiful and sometimes it doesn't. So, but I have found when I do the staple, it more than likely turns out better. I gotta go this way. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, now this side. This is seriously a cheap little stapler from like Office Depot, and I love it. It's probably one of my favorite sewing tools. Okay, they're all stapled in. See if you can see that. Isn't that cool? And now I'm just gonna sew, it should be about 1/2 inch, but right up next to my foam right there is where I wanna get it. And I usually start, here, I'm gonna move the camera. Oh, I better check my bobbin real quick. Oh, I was almost out. Look at that. Look how close I was. Huh. All right, check your bobbin. If you haven't. All right. Put a new one in. I have gotten all the way around the bottom of a bag before and realized I ran out at the very beginning. That's the worst feeling. Okay. So I usually start on like the flat, long part of my bag. And this bag, man, it's big. It's kind of a doozy to get in there, but you can do it. So, right there. Yeah, that's about good. Okay. And you don't have to go fast. Especially around the corners. Remember you had those D-rings on the edges, so make sure those are out of the way. Okay. There we go. I usually go around, make sure it looks okay. I don't like the way this little edge looks. Okay. It's all on there. So now I am gonna cut off the staples because I do not want those on my bag. I'll put this back out a little ways. Okay. I try not to trim right there where I have the connectors. That's why, again, I don't put staples right in the edges either, because it's good to leave a little extra there. Sometimes it's harder to get the staples out. Make sure when you're stapling that when you staple that you keep towards the edges, because if you go too far in, it's going to be too close to your seam that you're making, and then it'll be hard to get all the staples out. You might cut your seam. You don't want to do that. You're stitching. Almost there. Okay, all done, all sewn, beautiful. Sorry, there we go. Okay, so now we're gonna go and do the same exact thing to our lining. And our lining is a bit easier than the main panel. But you don't have to staple. I still do. It's just my habit. Ooh, you can also go in and look and see how the base looks to your bag. Yeah, I think it looks okay. Okay, so when you do your when you do the bottom of your lining, I also put little notches in my 4 corners on that too, and on my lining pieces. When you sew your lining on, you're gonna do a bigger seam allowance so it will fit into your main bag better as well, like you did with the sides. But you do the bigger seam allowance the whole way around. So I did my 4 corners there, and now I'm going to go ahead and staple all the way. Again, you don't have to staple. You can just clip if you want. And that might be a little wrinkly because it's harder to fit this because you had a bigger seam allowance. That's okay. It'll go just fine. Out of staples. There's staples in. Try and get it closer so you guys can see what I'm doing. It's kind of hard. Okay, all stapled in, just like that. And then bigger seam allowance, I go about a 1/4 inch bigger. I've got it already marked on my thing here. Go around. then trim that all down, and we're going to trim all the other seam allowances down. We are getting towards the end, guys. Okay, I'm just gonna trim down my sides a bit here. Probably should have done that before I put on the bottom, but that's okay. That is okay. All right. I think we pull it through next. Let me double check that we've done everything. Yep. Okay. Pull the bag through. Ready? My favorite part. Get to see how beautiful this thing is. Yay. Let's see. I want to make sure my zipper pull doesn't come off. I am going to clip. I don't know if it'll work. I'm going to clip it right there. I don't know if that'll keep it. All right. So through that beautiful hole that we made, I'm going to put this a little bit better. You're just going to start grabbing the in bottom. This makes my hands so tired sometimes, pulling it all through. Clip cable. I don't think there's any trick or any easy way to do this. You just have to have patience. Sometimes it's the biggest pain. And look, my zipper came off. Yep. I knew that was going to happen. You want to be careful not to rip your lining. I've done that before by pulling too hard. So just have patience. I'm sweating. Oh. Okay. Here it comes. Oh my goodness. Got. Oh, so pretty. Okay, you want to poke out everything. Everything out here. I like the bottom. It turned out interfacing I used turned out really good. It's a really solid bottom, especially because it's such a big bag. It's going to need that. Phew. Yeah. Okay. And then we got to sew up our lining. Push all out. There is no trick to doing this. You just fold it in as best you can and stitch it up. Just do it as close to the edge as you can. Okay. Push your lining inside. Ooh, it fits good. Look at that. Super good. Okay. So, this is what we're gonna have. Super cool. I lost my zipper, which happens if you don't sew. I forgot. I should have put a stitch in. That's okay though. I'm gonna get that back on and we will do the connectors. Okay, I got my zipper pull back on. Awesome. And I went ahead and did one side. I'm doing it a little bit differently. I put this piece together and I stitched all the way around it before I put it on. And then I just sewed it along the top there because it is so hard to get it to look nice when I sew it like that. I don't know if it's just me or if everybody has that issue. So what I'm gonna do as well is I'm gonna put two rivets there and one there, and then I'm also putting one down here. I forgot, oof, I'm so mad. I forgot to rivet my handles. They'll be okay. I don't think they're going anywhere, but it always looks so much better when you put rivets there. We should have done that before we put it with the lining, but that's okay. That's okay. So here are our pieces for the end clips. I just have vinyl. I put double-sided tape along these edges, and I'm gonna peel them and push them back just about as thick as that tape is. Just like that, along all the edges. Okay. Just like that. Okay. So what we have is a piece that looks like that. What I'm gonna do now, which you can do it differently. You can put it on your bag just like that, and then try and stitch through all your layers in a nice little pattern. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna top stitch right now along it, and then I'm gonna put it on and do one more stitch on it. So that's what I have. I'm gonna put my hook, my clip in, just like this. Okay, I'm gonna put some double-sided tape on there. Just like that. Okay, and then you need to pinch your bag where it looks nice, right? I kind of boxed out my bag and tried to make it look about right. And then kind of can tell, I think that's about right, how where your clip meets your D-ring. You want it to be secure but not too tight, right? You don't want it to pull it down farther than it needs to go. Make sure you're kind of even on your front and back. Now, if you weren't doing it this way, you could totally sew all the way around. Again, I just don't have luck with it. I feel like sometimes I tear my vinyl. I can never get the stitching to look nice. So I'm just stitching along this top right here, and then I'm gonna rivet. Sometimes it's a struggle to get your bag where it needs to be. And I'm using my piece of vinyl here so I don't rip my vinyl on my bag. Okay, I think it looks okay. It's not perfect, but I think it looks good. Okay, so we got our connectors on. So now I just need to go rivet and add my handles. My handles are right here. Just need to trim off my edges slightly. just so they're even. So we're gonna clip. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like. I'll go finish it with the rivets. Oof, it's cute. You could also sew these first and then rivet. I might do that. We'll see how easy it is to get it under the machine. Okay. And then, there it is, guys. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Look what we did. Okay, I'm gonna go put the rivets on and then we'll take one more look at it. Yay! Okay, you guys, all done. I put all the rivets in. I ended up being able to kind of get in there and do rivets on the handles. It was really bugging me that I forgot that. But that is how I did the side ones. I think it looked okay. It turned out all right. But there is our finished bag. It's big. Do you see how big it is? It's a perfect travel overnight. And again, you can put connectors for a shoulder strap if you really wanted to. But let's look at the inside real quick too. All done. I think it turned out pretty awesome. Thanks for watching my video, and let me know, comment below, subscribe. Let me know if there's any tutorials or things you want to learn, tips, tricks, or any patterns that you're wanting to try that you don't see something on. And I'll see you guys next time.